week's been the hurricanes. Helene was there, and now I forget the new one coming in. Ravaged Georgia, Florida, the southeast of the United States. It's been terrible. I think it's like, I can't remember what the death toll was. It's a bunch. It's like 200 people. And people lost homes. It's just been really horrible. But don't worry, everybody. The government's sort of, they are on it. The Republicans, governors and stuff that are in most of those states are really happy with the government response. Things have been going well, except for Republicans like Trump and some of the guys in the House are running on this platform of saying it's a conspiracy theory and the government's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. And in fact, the government caused the hurricane. The Democrats caused the hurricane. And this is causing more problems and depleting resources, and this is why it's an issue. So this is Rachel Battle. We're going to watch a couple clips from her real quick, but she covered this, and it's freaking insane. But this was all over the news.
For political benefit, right? Sure, 6 different states coping with devastation from a hurricane less than 2 weeks ago. And another storm on the way that is so large and terrifying, it is bringing meteorologists to tears. Trump campaign sees that and thinks, what better time than to mess with people? What better time is there than this? Because maybe we'll benefit from it. Maybe if people are pushed into the most extreme circumstances possible, maybe we'll benefit from things being as bad as they can possibly be. The Harris campaign just tonight has released a new ad pushing back at the lies that Trump and his campaign have been trafficking in about the hurricane response. Also reminding the country that this was not exactly his strong suit while he was in the White House in charge of efforts like this.
So this is the ad. So they've been saying that things are bad. They haven't responded. All the Republican governors have been saying, no, they've responded. Everything's great. We have what we need. You know, it's just, well, you can't do much about this, the hurricane. This is the ad that they've pushed to push back on this. And it goes back to, remember what it was like when Trump had hurricanes, because he had several while he was president, and how he didn't hardly do shit. And that's what this is to remind you of, what it was like when he was president.
This ad has just come out.
And these things happen.
I worked in the Trump administration.
Never in a million years did I ever think that I'd be working in the White House with a president that didn't care about the American people.
He would suggest not giving disaster relief to states that hadn't voted for him.
I remember one time after a wildfire in California, he wouldn't send relief because it was a Democratic state. So we went as far as looking up how many votes he got in those impacted areas to show him these are people who voted for you. This isn't normal. The job of the president is to protect Americans, regardless of politics.
If Trump's elected again, there'll be no one to stop his worst instincts. You'll have yes men help him implement Project 2025's agenda. Unchecked power, no guardrails.
They will be serving one man. I am voting for Kamala Harris because she will put the safety and security of every American first, whether they voted for her or not.
Again, that is just released.
So those are officials in the Trump administration who had to respond to hurricanes and stuff when he was president, saying he didn't do shit. We had to convince him these people voted for him to even want to give aid.
Right. Right. Who does that?
Sick people.
I don't know that any Democrat or Republican before that has ever had that problem. They just send the aid.
Well, nope. So let's look at some of the disinformation they've been spreading, because this is fucking nuts.
On top of everything else, a tidal wave of disinformation and conspiracy theories designed to maximize the chaos and turn people against each other and reap whatever political points can be wrung out of it. I mean, amid everything else, here's the front page of the Winston-Salem Journal in North Carolina. Their front page, all columns above the fold headline, fighting misinformation. It's the last thing you think they'd have to be dealing with, given everything else they're dealing with. Hurricane Helene triggers misinformation surge. In Charlotte, North Carolina, here's the editorial board of the Charlotte Observer. Shame on Donald Trump for worsening North Carolina's Helene tragedy with political lies. FEMA has had to make a whole section of its website devoted to debunking false conspiracy theories and disinformation about the hurricane and the response that have been spread, among other people, by the Republican candidate for president of the United States. The North Carolina Department of Public Safety, again, with everything else they have to deal with, they have also had to make a fact versus rumor new website to help people sort through the trash that is being promoted for political benefit. I mean, back in reality, among people actually involved in the response, North Carolina's governor has called the federal response to Helene, quote, unprecedented. North Carolina Republican Senator Tom Tillis says he's impressed with the federal response. He says he is proud of the response effort, that they're doing a great job. A Republican state senator in North Carolina who represents Western North Carolina, he's posted a public plea, quote, friends, can I ask a small favor? Will you all help stop this conspiracy theory junk that's floating all over Facebook and the internet about the floods in Western North Carolina? Example, FEMA is stealing money from donations, body bags ordered but government has denied, bodies not being buried. Government is controlling the weather from Antarctica. Government is trying to get lithium from Western North Carolina. Stacks of bodies left at hospitals, and on and on and on. He says, quote, please help stop this junk. It is just a distraction to people trying to do their job. Folks, this is a catastrophic event of which this country has never known. It is the largest crisis event in the history of North Carolina. The state is working nonstop. DOT has deployed workers from all over the state. Duke Power has 10,000 workers on this. FEMA is here. The National Guard is here in large numbers. And he goes on.
So here's the thing. So Trump is thinking, oh, this will help if I say, look how bad things are because of this hurricane and Biden's not doing a good job. It'll help me in my poll numbers. What happens is by spreading these conspiracies that they're not doing their job, they're not giving aid, they're not doing this stuff, people then think the aid isn't there and they don't go seek it out. And then FEMA and the federal government and the local state governments and the National Guard have to spend more time and money and resources to combat the misinformation to make sure people can get the help they need.
God, on top of it, it's just disgusting.
And people die because of this shit.
It's so gross to utilize this sort of thing and then try to spread this extra fear that is totally out there, just to gain some political points here. And then look, this senator is a Republican. Look at that little R behind his name.
Yeah.
He's a Republican. He's even having to go on here and be like, listen, you guys are not helping.
Right. He's begging people.
That's the thing. You're not helping.
How bad is it when you have to beg members of your own party to shut the fuck up and let this go through? But this got bled out into the news. So here's CNN. I got this from Brian Tyler Cohen, and we'll watch a couple clips from him on this. This is the bullshit that they were spreading. And they were this guy was combating it on CNN, and it's ridiculous that we have to fight about this. We should be fighting about how are we going to get these people aid. Or we should be assisting the government. We shouldn't be arguing about what's real and what isn't.
It's not true.
In a large number
why'd you
of
say
the
it's
federal
not true?
budget.
Survivors are going to get tens of thousands of dollars.
1 second.
So why did you lie just now?
No, what I'm saying is this. I'm putting the point in this. When people are talking
why'd
of
you say
money in
it?
the billions of dollars.
But you screwed up.
She made the point that it was $750 a family. It might end up being
On the
tens of
first day.
Brian, I'm not saying money will not reach it. I'm saying what the political reality is. People in North Carolina are upset. They see tons of money going elsewhere, and there isn't an immediate reaction from the federal government. That's all I'm saying.
There's not an immediate reaction?
It's not
FEMA's been
big
there
enough
for a
for
week.
what's going on. It happened 5 days ago. We should have helicopters in the sky of the United States
They've
military.
been there. They've been there for several days now.
Brian, that is completely not the story that people are hearing.
You're
through
right
social
that what
media and
people are seeing on social media is false. You're absolutely right that the lies on social media are distorting people's minds. That's true.
We have countless people missing, okay? There is billions of dollars going to every which way like I said, migrants, and this is fine. We can have the debate about all those separate
Richest country on earth.
What I am saying is, when a disaster like this happens, the response needs to be immediate and overwhelming.
And you're saying it hasn't
people
been.
Do not
So you're
feel
alleging
it's
the
that
government's
way.
been
No,
incompetent.
I'm not.
Okay, but can we?
I'm trying to tell you that.
But see, that's the bullshit that's going on. He's trying to say the response hasn't been good enough. But then he's also admitting, yeah, but we're also lying about how the response wasn't good enough with misinformation on Facebook. But the response still wasn't good enough. So he's doubling down. He admits to lying and then he doubles down on the lie. It's fucking psychotic. People are dying. And these are the games they're playing to try to get points. It's fucking crazy. Right? So here's Brian Tyler Cohen. We're going to watch one more clip from him on this, because that was his clip too. But this is the last part of it I just wanted to watch.
Respond to criticism. FEMA has been in these states since even before the storm hit. Of his call with Biden, Republican Georgia Governor Brian Kemp said, and I told him, we got what we need. We will work through the federal process. He offered that if there's other things we need, just to call him directly, which I appreciate that. But we've had FEMA embedded with us since, a day or two before the storm hit. A day or two before the storm hit. In fact, there's a raft of Republican officials heaping praise onto the federal government.
I just spoke, the president just called me yesterday afternoon. I missed him and called him right back. And he just said, hey, what do you need? And I told him, we got what we need. We'll work through the federal process. He offered that if there's other things we need, just to call him directly, which I appreciate that.
We have been, Sean, I have to say, working well with FEMA. They, in fact, were moving very quickly over the last few days for us, and getting these resources has been critically important.
I'm incredibly appreciative of the rapid response and the cooperation from the federal team at FEMA. I've been on the phone over the weekends with the senior FEMA administrator. The team has been deployed. We had our declaration of emergency processed an expedited way over the weekend and was finalized yesterday.
I too want to thank the entire team. I mean, our communities, our citizens in the communities are certainly very resilient, as the governor stated. Our private partners, volunteers, I mean, obviously our local, our state, and our government and our federal government all working together. Just a lot of hard work going on just across the state. This storm left a tremendous amount of devastation. But the response efforts by all involved have been phenomenal.
In fact, the people who are spreading...
So that's the thing. And he goes into to explain. These are mostly Republicans, Republican governors, saying these wonderful things. Saying FEMA was here early. National Guard was here. We have what we need. And even after we had what we needed, the president called us personally and said, do you need anything else? You never heard shit like that when Trump was president? Never fucking called the states personally. He showed up in California, whatever, weeks after the wildfires and talked about, we need to rake the floors. And that was his solution. We need to rake the floors of the forest. You mean the ground? What do you call this guy? This ceiling of the earth. He's just a fucking idiot, dude. I mean, and he doesn't care. And they don't care.
Well, you know what? Trump has brought a new era of Republican into the light, because honestly, pre-Trump, any president from any side would send the aid.
Right, because they wouldn't want to look incompetent.
They're not really going to argue too much with a natural disaster that suddenly happened. They just send the aid. People from both sides just send the aid. Trump is this sort of new era of maybe we don't have to. They didn't vote for me. Not enough of them voted for me.
Yeah. Well, it's built up for a long
So this is a natural disaster, and people are pulling vote logs to try to convince the president to take care of the people.
Well, it built up for a long time. A lot of the racists were underground for a while there, but that was Trump's whole thing, is saying Obama's not a real American. The immigrants aren't real Americans. These people aren't real Americans. And when they say that, it's just code for they're not white. So they shouldn't have equal rights. That's part of what they're doing. That's part of the game they're playing here. But why does this...